All right, welcome again, coaches, back for our age-specific theme tonight with our RugbyWA Coaches Series. Tonight we're going to cross two different streams within the youth space and also the senior space. And we've got Colin Philips, who's new to the state and to the city, and it'll be good to just get a little bit of his background story of his journey and how he's ended up in Perth. And then we'll be going into the area of unstructured training and what his views and experiences with that is. So, Colin, you want to jump in now?
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Don. Just while everyone's getting set up and getting organised, do you want to play a little game through the whole process? The game of kind of, I think it's Zoom bingo. I think a lot of those have been on lots of calls, so might have been playing it already. So I just want you to write down 6 words or phrases that you feel or believe might come up in this next 45 minutes, an hour. Conversation round about unstructured training and some of the things you think I might say. Dylan's going to check the kit store back at the HQ when they get back fully, and first person to get all 6 words or phrases, put bingo in the chat, and Dylan will make a note and source some kit for you. And if there's no kit, I'll buy you a coffee or a beer once we get out of.
I'm going to put my 6 words down as well and try to win something.
Cool.
We'll do that for a minute.
Yeah.
And then there's just a couple others coming in as well. So while we're doing that, Colin, do you want to share your screen?
No problem.
So I'll stop my share while others are writing down their bingo words. Cool, you're good to go.
How's that?
Yep, got that all good. Perfect. All right. So we're probably good to get started. If you just want to give us a bit of a background of your coaching journey, and then we'll get into the presentation.
Definitely, yeah. No, thanks, Dylan. Here we go. First IT mistake that was supposed to come up later. We'll get to that a bit later. Just Colin Philips, played all my rugby in the northeast of Scotland. I was played for Aberdeen Grammar in the Premiership. Played all my youth rugby at Banff Rugby Club, which was a small, non-traditional rugby area, northeast of Scotland. I kind of liken it very similar to the west coast of Australia here. Rugby wasn't the number one sport. Football was, or soccer back in Scotland was definitely the predominant sport in the area. And Aberdeen Football Club were pretty successful while I was growing up, and everyone aspired to be an Aberdeen footballer. My PE teacher, who was one of the kind of big inspirations in me, wanted to be a PE teacher originally. He was a football coach, but had a real good way with all sports. He was had the ability to step up, demonstrate, and if you had a keen interest in sport, he was very supportive and motivational. I wasn't very good at higher English, so I failed that a couple of times, and was pretty lucky to fall into a development officer role after doing a sports coaching course at Aberdeen College. So spent 10 years as a development officer, working right throughout the range of grassroots, introducing the game to new players who'd never played the game before, doing the school club links, coach education, working in what was the kind of pathway system in Scotland at the time, looking after the regional teams, which is be similar to the regional teams here, looking to develop talent ID and support the players as we go through. In that 10-year period, obviously, a number of things changed. What the focus was nationally, what the positives coming out of World Rugby, what the kind of current trends were. So kind of picked up a lot of experience through that period, and was obviously playing at the same time, and coached by a mix of nationalities through the years, Scots, English, Kiwis, a couple of Australians through the period, and with quite a good connection with the kind of couple of clubs in Brisbane, and I think for most years, for at least a 10-year spell playing, we had an influence from Australia on and off, like on the pitch playing in terms of coaching as well. So gathered a lot of kind of information, experience through there. At the end of my playing, and coincided with my body breaking down, kind of moved into an academy role, looking after the north of Scotland, and which kind of part of the Caledonia region, which is, for those who know about Scotland, you've got Glasgow and Edinburgh, the two major cities, and then pretty much everything north of that is classed as Caledonia, with Stirling, Dundee, Aberdeen and Inverness kind of being the major cities, and probably the predominant areas where rugby happens. Through that academy role, we had a close link with the Glasgow Warriors and the pro team, who was lucky to kind of spend quite a bit of time in and around that environment, again learning a lot more about the kind of performance end of the sport, and supporting players within our region to transfer into those environments, and linking again with the national age grade programs. I think on one day in kind of weekly joint academy session with Glasgow and Caledonia, I was the part of the coaching group that were there. There was probably in excess of 400 caps in the coaching environment. I didn't contribute any, but I kind of found myself standing, looking around the group, going, if I don't learn anything from this environment, there's something seriously wrong. Guys that coached the winning Pro 14 teams, coached abroad, coached in the national team, coached national sevens, and kind of a really open, sharing environment, which obviously, again, back to my kind of lucky and kind of felt very privileged to be in a position where I could learn and share and take that information into different groups. Part of my role as the academy, kind of worked with the national, initially kind of under 18s, 19s, doing video analysis for the national age grade teams, and then laterally, just before I left Scotland, was kind of assistant coach with the Scotland 16s. In the Scotland 16 with sort of 3 teams, Glasgow and Caledonia combined, Edinburgh and the Borders combined, and then there's an exiles team that used to play annually in a festival in Wales. Real focus of that programme was roundabout attack, and that was driven nationally, building right the way through the programme. Obviously, kind of since coming here last week, I can obviously from the webinar last week, the roundabout the kind of national skills curriculum. That's something that was implemented probably four seasons ago in Scotland, and as a coaching within the development and pathway programs was of massive benefit to the conversations we had with schools and clubs who were driven and focused about winning, aligning them to be in develop. We want you to go and win and be successful, but also we want you to do your part for Scottish rugby. And obviously that technical blueprint was kind of put together by national coaches, pro coaches, national age grade coaches. And it's certainly a lot from my opinion is that has aligned a lot more. It's allowed the coach education to feel part of and contributing towards the success of the nation. So certainly looking forward to continuing working here in Western Australia and aligning that kind of my thinking and my delivery to that national programme. So
I'll just jump in there, Colin.
Yeah.
Just around that national skills model from a Scottish point of view, you said it sort of 4 seasons back you guys implemented it. How many seasons do you feel like it was really entrenched in the systems over there? People kind of reference the size of Scotland a lot. It's a small country, and that was definitely a benefit and a bonus because the initial promotion and selling of it was done pretty smartly. The people that first built it, put it together, got it around the country on a roadshow sort of program pretty early doors and managed to sell it very well.
There were, being staff and being part of the program, it was easy to implement and make changes in what I was doing to align to the program. And there was probably about, initially first year, probably like 50% people bought in quite quickly. I think the majority of the people delivering rugby in Scotland are exactly the same here. The volunteers who've got a million things on in their life as it is, in terms of the day job, maybe part-time jobs, they've got families, they've got social lives, they might coach at a club and a school, and it certainly helped kind of focus on what they had to coach, and they weren't trying to kind of reinvent the wheel and make something new up all the time. They had a clear guide to take on with, and certainly by the time I left, pretty much everyone was well versed with the technical blueprint and the kind of each area of it, and some people were focusing really heavily on areas that were of interest to them, which certainly kind of made it easier for them to plan and go out and be successful.
Yeah, cool. So hopefully we can get that implemented in at least the next couple of years.
Definitely. And kind of finished in Scotland. I spent just over a year in Dubai, working on the beach some of the time, not quite all the time. My wife works in oil and gas, so she wanted to live somewhere hot, and the company she works for got us a move to Dubai, and then kind of just over a year later got us a move here to Western Australia. And all the noises are, this has got to be a lot more permanent experience. So in terms of my experience in terms of rugby from the Dubai sort of things, it's I was kind of working in one of the academies. I was working with schools. We had a kind of player development program for the ambitious players. Worked for Apollo Perelli's Rugby Academy. Also did some skills coaching with the UAE 7s and 15s, and kind of head coach, director of rugby at one of the Premiership teams. And those who've been to Dubai know a bit about Dubai. You don't go there to play rugby. You don't go there to be a professional rugby player. You go there ultimately to make money and work in your career. To get a visa, you pretty much need to be a senior and kind of a promoted management level. So your priorities are probably a bit different. There's some quality players there, some outstanding experience, but rugby's not the first job. So going from the performance department at Scottish Rugby, working with players who want to be there, are ambitious about playing for the region, the nation, getting pro contracts, to then coaching people who it was a hobby. There was some challenges and some changes, but also some really enjoyable times. So what kind of coach am I? Is probably the question that was going to pose. Was pretty much, I've got 20 years experience coaching in multiple environments, and obviously what we're going to chat a little bit more about today is what mistakes I've made in terms of developing structured, unstructured play, using games, and trying to, I suppose, get the right balance of developing the skill, developing how the structure, and obviously the ultimate aim of everyone wants to win and progress and move on. So that'll keep us going. Just probably for a little bit of clarity around about some of the terminology, and that's kind of been one of that challenge. It's just something I've kind of had to learn and adapt and change over the time, is just be really clear on the different terminology and different teams. And some of you'll be working with the academy, some of you'll be coaching in schools and clubs and across different ranges. So just want to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page. Structured, unstructured. When I'm talking about structured play in terms of the game, I'm looking at the set piece, your scrums, your lineouts, your restarts, and your launch plays off those scrums and lineouts. That's what I'd class as structure. When probably depend, and this depends, and you probably hear me say it depends a lot. I would see, depending on what group or what level you're working at, that structure might go to just one phase, 2 phases, depending on the standard. Working with younger children, how organised are defences? As the standard of rugby you're playing and coaching at, I'm assuming that the defences are going to become more structured for longer. And obviously, the ultimate aim is you want to break down that structure. And then on unstructured, looking at turnovers, kick receipts, tackle break, line break, and I suppose depending on that level, they kind of off a ruck or a maul. If you're measuring where they kind of break down in that defence is. I would say definitely that structure is really important, and using that to just apply pressure on the defence, trying to break or bend the defence, and get in that position to kind of apply pressure and ultimately gain territory and score. Obviously, thinking about the structure and defence, it's just the reverse, looking to apply pressure on the opposition to stop them scoring, regain possession, and attack, and how you deal with that. I think one thing in terms of this unstructured element, I think lots of people have the image that it's messy and it's heads up rugby, and there's lots of decisions going on. I think it's really important that and when I'm coaching, yes, we in structure, we aim to break the line, but there's still an element of structure in what you do once you break the line. If we get turned over, what are we doing? So there's still some key principles that your team are aware of, and how they use them. So, for example, we make a line break. The person that makes a line break, where are they going? Do they have a target? Do they aim for the fullback? Is everyone roundabout clear? If somebody's made a break, where are they going? Where do I need to try and position myself? Do I run to his left, his right, get in behind? And again, you can develop those principles yourself with your teams. So there's control, and definitely that element of understanding of a structure of play benefits the players in terms of confidence in what's going to happen, because they practice that. They've got a shared mental model, a shared picture of what they're trying to see. And I suppose as coaches, we're trying to build that structure, get that clarity for the players, and then kind of test it and challenge it and push it. So when they come under the real pressure of game time, they execute in a positive and successful manner. In terms of technique and skill, they're not the same. For me, the technique's that kind of physical action when you're isolated. When it's in isolation, no pressure, static. Where are your hand position with the ball? Where do you look? Where do your hands finish? That's technique. Skill for me is that technique where you put it into context, where you're able to apply the pressure, where there's the decision that's got to be made. And I suppose that kind of comes down to the decision-making element. As people ask, people make good decisions. How does somebody make a good decision? Because, well, they've got skills. They're automatically going back to something they've practiced previously. And I suppose what we'll talk as we go through is how do we, to get that balance right of developing the technique, coaching the skill, and as I'm well aware, what a lot of you will be in, like limited time programs where you're trying to do lots. So I suppose it's I can share some of my experiences, things that I've done that I've hopefully been able to develop the technique, the skill, and the understanding of the game, and kind of keep everyone engaged and motivated as we go. Just a little bit of information around about the under 16s program in 2018. Was doing a project with Napier University as part of a qualification we went through, and one of the areas we looked at unstructured versus structured play through the programme, and basically what we looked at, what we aimed to do in that programme, based on the information we gathered from under 16 rugby, is we plan to deliver 40% structured, 60% unstructured in our sessions, trying to, what we perceived as replicated what we had looked at, an educated guess round about the regional programmes, what had happened in regional games coming into the national programme. And we try to aim to replicate that as close as we could in sessions. And we were very lucky that every session was filmed, and with an analyst who kind of came on board, who coded and tagged our sessions of what they looked like. And what we actually found out was, what we actually delivered was 63% structured and 37% unstructured. And that looked at some of our drills, our practices, and the communication between the coaches and the players, and what we focused on versus what actually happened. And also through the games, in a festival with a four game programme, what we actually found out was that the game was totally different. What we'd actually coached them didn't really align, didn't really match, which was a bit of an eye-opener for us. And certainly something that this was the final year that I was involved and moved on, the kind of thought the coaches the following year looked at, and again tried to aim to be far more unstructured in how they played and how they developed. And ball and play, attack was a real focus with this programme. So in hindsight, that was the focus. So we ended up in that environment. We played lots of games and coached through the games in this environment. And being in Scotland and being outside and being cold and wet and miserable, try to keep them warm and active and educated at the same time was certainly a challenge. And would certainly focus far more on that unstructured element going forward, and certainly look at how we tweak our practices to make them more game related. Would be the focus. Some of the learnings, using block practice and drills. Talked to there about the isolating the technique, the repetition of the movement. From a coaching perspective, you're in control. It's a safe environment. Coaching certain elements of the game, the contact, the tackle. This is massive important. This must be done. The kind of the free play of the game element. Just let's give it a go. That's not something that we can do in the contact element. So it's really important. Small-sided games. I think this would be the traditional model. I could think about people's kind of building the programs, block practice, small-sided games, where there's more context. There's a lot more touches of I suppose benefits would be that, a lot more touches, a lot more involvement, but more fast-paced and dynamic. I think it's a lot more like the real game, and they're going to get that experience that they're going to get down the line within the programs. And obviously jumping right to the end, playing the full game, playing 15 on 15, definitely gives you that picture, that shared mental model of what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve. Everyone's getting that alignment and understanding of in different areas of the pitch. What are they going to do? What are they going to try to get to? And the good coaches and smart coaching, this was the challenge for everyone too, is in this situation, is to how do you develop the skill and the structure of the plays that you want to play. And I suppose a question to ask yourself is what level are you at? Where are we? Who am I delivering to? Am I delivering to in the academy environment where the players want to be rep players? They want to kind of be wallabies. They want to be super rugby players. They want to play for the force. They've got that ambition. Or are we coaching in a club environment where you've got a bunch of guys who've worked all day and ultimately had their career, they've played their rugby, all right, they've given it a shot, and they just want to go and socialise and have a bit of fun. But you still, as a coach, want to make them better. So how do you use your skills in that environment as we go? I suppose the one thing that definitely talking about the children is that free play element. If you can think of some of the best skills you've seen players kind of execute, it's probably the kind of the 3 or 4 kids who've got a rugby ball and are just messing around on the sideline, giving offloads, trying to replicate the Sunny Bills, smashing each other, doing things really well, where they're kind of constraint free from the adults. They're not really being challenged. They're kind of working on things that they want to work on, that they see important, and they want to enjoy, and it's some quality. So it's kind of area to look at, and how do we facilitate that? How do we just give them that ability and that freedom to play? So it's something that a lot of you may have heard about and chatting about. It's kind of gamification side of things that's coming out, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But obviously, the kind of instant gratification. How do you develop the range of abilities of the players? Most of us will be in a right thing of the game. There's a core set of skills that we want everyone to perform, but our expectations of how a prop passes and where a prop passes and when he passes is going to be different from a 10, because the balance in the game will change. So how do you kind of use the gamification phrase to develop each of those skills in different ways in different parts throughout the game, and I suppose whether they're coming into your academy and want to be a professional rugby player, whether they're just coming to have some fun at the club afterwards or anywhere in between, enjoyment's the key factor for the coach. You've got to make them enjoy it. You've got to make them want to come back, and obviously that retention and keeping them coming through the gate. So how do we use our games, our gamification of any of these elements below the block practice, the small-sided games, in the big game, to keep them engaged and switch them on, and again be smart about that, developing the tactical understanding, awareness, and kind of skills as we go. I suppose one of the webinars I was looking at, the coach educator was talking about that wants or needs. Kids come through the door, players come through the door. As a coach, you feel they need to work on passing. Do they want to work on passing? They want to play a game. 99% of them will just want to play a game. And it's how do you get that balance? And he kind of referenced his kids need to eat broccoli. They need to eat green things to be healthy, but they actually want to eat McDonald's. So he's trying to invent a broccoli burger he talked about. Okay, so you're getting that, but how do you get the balance right of letting them play games that are enjoyable, engaging, and fun, and develop the big picture, but also use your coaching skills and techniques to make sure their techniques improving, and work their way through. For me, it's kind of the power of the games. I think it again talked about that traditional model of I'll teach you how to pass, teach you how to offload, teach you how to tackle, then I'll teach you how to do that in a game. That you can't adapt to an environment you don't inhabit. So how many kids see that? Do they understand that linear process of do this before that? If you think about your sessions that traditionally have been planned like that, come in, work on a skill, then we'll make it a little bit harder, and then we'll go to the game. Right, the game being the most important bit, the game being the most engaging part of the program, and the bit that's most relevant to what they're probably going to go and perform in, they're going to be technically assessed on in the long run. How often have you ran a session that actually that you planned for 20 minutes of a game, but you've actually only got 6 minutes of a game because some of the players were late. The S&C coach who was doing the warm-up ran on. They weren't that good in the technique element, so that kind of went on a little bit longer, and then it cut down at the end. And kind of, all the studies and the engagement side of things for players, where do they get most of the learning, or where can they get the learning and the expression in that game element? That gets shorter and shorter. How can you, is there a way to flip your practices where they play the game, you challenge the techniques and use breakout skill areas to work on that? And one of the things we can look at is some of the challenges and ways we kind of look at that through the process. And that's just some of the kind of, I suppose, study, the kind of research that's done round about games and how you build them, and why they're important. And I think everyone's kind of been enough games environment, they can see the benefits of all of those, and just keep working on the balance. Just a couple of my thoughts in terms of kind of designing games, designing your practices. Have the big picture in mind. What is the big context? What are you trying to get to? And then how do you filter that down? What's most important what are the most important skills that go to feed your goals, the way you want to play? We've got a physical ball carry, a physical team, and we want to be really good at rucking and clearing out, because that's where we believe our strengths are going to be. So how do you build the games? How do you reward success in those elements? If you want to play a game where you're going side to side, how do you, within the game, instead of just structuring the game and telling this is you're going to get the ball from here to here, this is what we're going to do. How do you, again, have a skills focus, reward the success of the skills, and execution of those skills, which also will ultimately benefit to the kind of long-term goal. Through a regional program, when we first started looking at coaching structures, and I think Scottish Rugby spent a lot of money sending coaches to Canterbury, to the high performance unit, and coaches came back, and this year we're working on 2-4-2. This year we're working on 1-3-3-3-1, different structures every year. And certainly as a kind of younger coach, great coaching structure is the way to go. And found myself, just the session was around about structure. How do we get organised? How do you get people in the right place? So much so that on a couple of occasions, players were running past rucks, which we were then lost because they were going to get into structure. They were going to get in position. They were going to get in shape. They'd forgotten about, we hadn't coached them enough around about executing the skills and some of the core points about the game. One player who found himself standing in the wing, a prop standing in the wing in defence, was asked why he was standing on the wing, and he was like, his response was 1-3-3-3-1, and it was kind of meant a lot as a coach, right? I've confused these kids. We've coached structure too much. And so a way to kind of change was try to play games in the way I do it. Something nowadays is set up games and manipulate the defenders to create pictures, positive pictures, which will allow the shape or the structure we want to do to kind of be learned through that process. Condition how many people could be in certain channels, split the pitch up into 4 channels, right? You're only allowed, they're just playing a game, a traditional touch game, but you can condition how many forwards or backs can be in certain areas, manipulate the defence, and then ask them, use your questioning skills and review elements for them to identify why was a success in that area, or because we had 3 forwards and we did this, right? Okay. And they get that picture, they get that positive picture as we go. In terms of the skills element, for me, that's definitely down to you as a coach and the cues that you use. When things go well, why did it go well? Was it because it was a good decision because they had that skills in their locker? Did they get their hands to tie elbows through? Did they look? Did they get your foot in close and make the shoulder contact in the tackle? So although you're working on structure, you're still reinforcing the positive execution of the skills throughout. And again, the use of the skills of questioning. One thing, the breakout blocks. If you're lucky enough to have a group of coaches, can you have two teams playing a game with somebody refereeing, somebody controlling the game, the constraints from the game, with an additional coach at the side who's got a coaching square. And I'll send you a link at the end where Eddie Jones and the English Academy, one of the English Academy groups, do this really well. And within the games, they have a breakout, and I suppose a lot of that will come down to number of coaches, availability of coaches, number of players that you're working with, and certainly something we can discuss, and different ideas and how you can make that work. I suppose in terms of manipulating the options within the games, just looking at different ways to challenge the players, make them think about things. How do you manipulate the space of the game? How do you manipulate the numbers of players? Is it the overload and attack? Have you got more defenders to put some real pressure? Is there a change, or is it a dropout game where the picture's always changing and they try to recognise and share that information? And do you limit the skills that can be used, the constraints? Do you reward execution of some of the skills? So if there's a release play, if there's a score off a release play, or out the back pass, or a crossfield kick, or whatever you want to work on, that's worth double points. If you just score a traditional try, fine, score, add something else in. And then, as I talked about, you can mix up the scoring. And that kind of blending the games, blending the constraints. If team one is getting awarded points for one style of play and team two is getting awarded for a different style of play, it's a challenge as a coach. There's a lot going on, and you probably need some support, and the players will definitely help you. Is that also relevant to the big game? I think that's the question of, when you go play a team at the weekend, do you know how they're going to play? Do you know exactly what we're going to do? How often is Team A and Team B played the same rules back when you're defending? You know what the other team are going to do, and you're defending. So we're not really having to make any decisions. We're not having to notice and observe what other teams are doing and make adaptations and changes. Whereas if we blend the rules within the games and allow them to change, there's opportunities to do that. And it's certainly something we can look at and discuss as we further down the line. And also on the field, which might make it a little bit easier. Touched on this gamification earlier. Amy Price is a coach developer with the English football, English FA. She studied at University in Edinburgh, and she's looked at taking video game principles, design of video games into sport, looking at how basically why do people play games so much? How many hours a week are some kids in there? What hooks them in? What keeps them sold on the sport? And she tried to look at some of those principles to bring them into sports, and kind of to talk a lot about gamification, and those who have kind of heard and seen some of the Magic Academy stuff, they've done that a lot as well. And I think some of her key principles she looks around about missions, kind of try to get players to think about strategies, and not this is what you're going to learn, kind of just round about the language and terminology that coaches use, try to get that hook, that engagement of players, using different levels. So there's the players are always getting that feeling of progression. They want to, instant gratification's so big in the world nowadays. They're looking to get streaks on their, I was going to say Tinder, but I suppose kids aren't on Tinder, I hope. What's the other one? Snapchat. I don't really do social media. Look at Snapchat. So they're looking at streaks. How many likes do they get? How much? And that it's just instant. There's people following them. There's people retweeting things, and that's kind of makes people feel good. So within the sport environment, if you're going to train all week and the only time you get gratifications on a Saturday, being picked in a team, of playing in a team and getting success, that could be challenging, and that maybe doesn't hook people in. Whereas if there's elements of success and reward and different challenges and appropriate level challenges throughout the week and throughout the sessions, it's potentially and hopefully, and I think the research says that it motivates them sort of better and more throughout the environment, and not just that long wait until down the line. She talks a lot about the kind of pauses. Or why are there pauses in games? So she's kind of added in, you can cheat. You don't understand something, you're really struggling with something, I need a little bit of help. So there's a cheat there, and we can discuss why we would use that. You get a clue, ask for some help. Is it ask the coach? Is it ask the player, the teammates? Ask the opposition. Change something, and I would see kind of that change and challenge. Do we change? We want an extra player in our team because we're struggling, and it makes it a little bit harder for the opposition. Create a challenge, right? They're scoring out the wing all the time, so we can challenge them or change the scoring area to make it a little bit difficult. So there's that level playing field, or a closer to a level playing field across the pitch. And I think about how we want everyone to learn. We want everyone to get better in environments, and most environments there'll be a range of abilities. Certainly when I was in Dubai, there was a range of abilities there. There was the 40-year-old pilot who never played any rugby in his life but seen it on TV and decided he just wanted to come out on a Monday and a Wednesday night and run around and play. And there was a British Lion running around, and they were playing in the same team at times. They were up against each other at times, and I think that was one of the scariest moments in my life when the British Lion was lined up against the 40-year-old pilot who'd never played rugby. But by changing constraints within the game, allowing one player to only run 5 meters with the ball, and another one it needs to be 2 touches before he has to pass the ball, there's an appropriate level of challenge, and allowing them to develop and get some success and enjoyment. And I've got clarify in there as well, but that kind of links in with your kind of clue element. Kind of one thing, kind of one of the webinars I listened to, they did a captain of happiness. They gave some of the kids secret missions. Right, every time someone scores something well, it's your job to go and give them a high five, or pat them on the back, or cheer. And again, knowing your environment and the players and the standard and the quality that you're dealing with, what's going to work for them, what's going to help them. And I suppose from a coaching perspective, it's giving up some control. It's letting them make more decisions, letting them enjoy, let them learn and make mistakes and figure it out themselves, and which will hopefully develop better decision-making players when it comes to game time. So you're posing more questions and challenges, and kind of using the cues of the technical elements, other than trying to dictate and control everything throughout the program. One other element she kind of talked about was kind of that superpowers, which I think again links to the players that need more help or need more of a challenge. So if you score 10 points, you can then pick a superpower, and it might be we're allowed to kick, or they can run 10 steps, and some of those constraints we talked about. And again, you can use your imagination. I think a lot of the successes come from allowing the kids to come up with different elements and different things as we go. But yeah, it's certainly worth looking into. And I think one of the other comments we made is, how do we take the traditional drill and make that a game, make that a bit more fun. So we're still getting the same number of kind of repetitions of passes in there. And I think it's one of the skill acquisition guys from Ireland who's got his name at the end. He does a lot, and he made a comment of like 90% of the work's done, 95% of the work's done in terms of the structure, the drill and the practice. right? You just need to make a little bit of a game out of it, make a bit of fun for that hoop, that engagement for the players. Couple of just useful tips, kind of comments that I've thrown down there. Choice, let the players choose. So they again, that just down to their motivation. They feel empowered. I suppose the caveat on that is, don't say, what do you want to do tonight? Because you're going to get 10, 12, 15 different answers. Do you want to do an attacking game or a defensive game first? Do you want to work on an offload or a passing? So as a coach, you've given them some choice. You've got their buy-in, but you've still got an element of control. I think the kind of comment the other night, stay off the whistle. For those that were on the Gillies seminar, to stay off the whistle, let them make mistakes. And I've kind of, one of the coaches I work with is that rule of three. Let them make a mistake 3 times. And see if they can figure it out. So, and it's a challenge. It's hard because our instant reactions, we see something going wrong, we want to fix it. Only I'll say again the caveat: if it's dangerous, the whistle goes, so we stop them. But let them work it out, let them figure it out. I think we kind of probably do some of our players a disservice and stop them too early and try and, in our mind, help them. Whereas actually, if we think about the long term of what we want to develop and how we want to develop, letting them fix it themselves and work it out to an extent, and just be there to support them when they can't and they have to ask you the questions. Let them go. Again, that positivity, the celebrating success, remind them about the good things that happen, encourage them to replicate the good things. I think we're very quick, and coaches, it's easy to see the mistake. Oh, you dropped the ball went down. This is what you should be doing. When the kids again want to be rewarded for doing things right. They feel good about that. They're positive. They're going to come back, and certainly in group environments, it'll be encouraging to focus on that positive side of things. And as coach, try stuff, give it a go. Allow players and co-coaches to contribute, lead, make suggestions how we change things, tweak things. And the kind of the comment I've got there is, can I make this drill a game? How can I have a game within a game, teams within teams, mini games, and certainly I'd be encouraging use of the skills curriculum from Rugby Australia and how that's used. And if you just use that for 80% of your program, and then take your artistic license, your own flavour, as one of my ex-bosses used to call it, and add it to your team, and that's really important in terms of certainly the younger players and the success of the Wallabies down the line. If I think of a 15, 16-year-old player in Western Australia, if he's playing for the Wallabies in 6-7 years' time, and goes into that environment, and they're all talking a common language around about attack, defence, some of the skills, the speed process for those coaches is going to be a lot better. And I think there was challenges in Scottish rugby for a spell where Glasgow played one way, Edinburgh played another. The national coaches at the time were heavily involved with Glasgow, and they couldn't push on as far as they wanted to, and because they were kind of holding back the Glasgow players to upskill the Edinburgh, upskill the Edinburgh players to the same level. Whereas there's a lot more alignment now, so 2 pro teams worth of players are coming out the same environment who are doing lots of things in a similar way, and they're then able to push them on to the next level, and add that
Colin,
success.
We'll just jump in there. I've got Des. He's got a question to go back to around the gamifications. And
yeah.
Des, you want to come in, mate?
Yeah. Hey, Cole. Thanks, mate, for tonight. Some really good information there. Hey, I just was having some thoughts around that gamification. Like through the junior grades, we see a lot of kids come into rugby that just don't know how to react how to sort of see a situation, make a good decision, react appropriately, and obviously perform the skill to do that quickly. I blame them taking bull rush, cat and mouse, tag, all those sort of games out of the school system, and catch and kiss was a really good one. But they, although, no, I won't go there. Anyway,
and you're still getting recorded, careful.
Yeah, you either ran slow or ran fast, depended on who chased you. But, those sort of things, is we get a lot of younger kids now that don't have that within the school program. And so you're relying on their team sports to do that. And then when they get to the older ages of rugby, it's I've found that a lot of kids just don't have that, and they're very robotic in what they do and how they do that. So I just thought, what is your thoughts on, I guess, a very young generation like under 6 through to under 12s? Should the trainings be geared as much to gamification as possible? I mean, we're not going to have too many 100-kilo kids running around that are your earmarked for states and or whatnot, but should the focus be on that as opposed to really teaching them to throw the perfect pass or to perfect body position and cleaning out a ruck, those sort of things? What's your thoughts on that, and how do you see, I guess, the impact we have on them at under 6 to under 12s when they start getting into 15 aside through to their 13s to Colts and that sort of thing?
Definitely, yeah. No, I think it's a massive balance of trying to get the technical work done, the education round about how to pass and how to tackle and get that right. And if they're training 2 hours a week, I imagine 6 to 12-year-olds, an hour and a half a week, how much rugby are they doing away from that environment? So I suppose it's just getting kind of the skill of planning your session to get them as much contact. I think the small-sided games will be a massive importance, so they're getting lots of contact, lots of touches on the ball, and kind of, I suppose, monitoring that as a coach. Are you in a position to film and review your session and see how often did little Johnny touch the ball? And just get the balance. I think a big challenge is, and I've noticed, is coaches have traditionally wanted to do something different every week, do a different drill, different practice. I think with the kind of gamification side of things, there'll be different challenges every week, but you could run the same drill or practice small-sided game for a series of weeks, and the coach can focus more on setting different challenges and different skill challenges and using those cues to make them better through that period, instead of, right, all I'm doing is actually running a drill and coaching them how to do drills or a game. And next week I'm going to teach you a different game, different drill. So the kids aren't getting the reinforcement and the kind of challenge round about the skill and the use of that common language in the skill. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I suppose then it's that, is there a kind of homework element? Can again set a lot of challenges, and I suppose with kind of technology nowadays, and I suppose most of the clubs will be, whether it's WhatsApp groups or Facebook groups or something, like during the week, can you post yourself making 10 passes or bouncing a tennis ball off the wall and catching it and doing something, doing 5 burpees. Who can do 5 burpees the quickest? So it's things that are relevant in the game, but you've given them a little bit of homework's maybe not the word to use, because I didn't enjoy homework. Not many people enjoyed homework, but yeah. And again, knowing your group, and not everyone will do it, but I suppose as a coach, just try to throw as much out there as possible, and everyone will, I'm sure, will pick the bit that they like and want to use.
Okay, mate. Cool. Thanks.
No worries. I suppose just finish. I kind of chucked out a couple of ideas, kind of using, I think one of the comments, the slides previous, it was some of the tools to use as a coach, and I've seen whiteboards, a couple of small whiteboards, laminated sheets of paper, kind of using them pitch side to kind of give the players different challenges and kind of touch on the kind of bingo game. So you could be playing a game, and there's different challenges within it that the kids have got to remember, try and do, and they get points for scoring normally, but you might get extra points on the, I'm sure it's the one that says bingo above it. So right hand side, as I'm looking at it, I don't know how it comes up on everyone's screen. So they've got skill challenges within a game to try and achieve. So score, if they make 10 left, once the team's made 10 left to right passes, they can run off, somebody can run off the side, rub out that, and obviously there's multiple games going on within a single game. If they make 4 passes, with some of the different challenges on the left hand side, so if they make 3 lots of 4 passes without a contact or a collision or interception, kind of the stacked offloads. So if one player, if there's 2 offloads in a phase play, if there's an interception, you can kick the score. So again, just how do you engage the players, keep them thinking about the skills and also the game at the same time, so they don't just get lost in the game. I think somebody put a video up, so perfectly designed game to it was a little mouse or something. He had a little box and he'd made a maze. He said, "That's a great game. It'd be real fun for the mouse," but the mouse went indoor 1 and basically climbed over the top and outdoor 2. He's like, "Well, how often have we done that? We've set up a practice or a game and the kids have just gone and basically done something totally different, but they've scored a try or done something really good." And it's like, yeah, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted you, because in your head as a coach, you see this is important. So it's trying to give them that license and free range to go and play, but also have an element of control and challenge around about upskilling them. I think in terms of the kind of gamification side of things and the missions, I'm sure you've probably seen some of these, and they talk about the choice. Do you want to start at level 1, level 2? If you kind of, I suppose, and they kind of talked about that, trying to kind of learn and understand and recognize what the other teams are doing. They kind of, in this sort of situation, one team gets the mission on the left, other team gets the mission on the right. If you can recognize what the other team are, how they score, you could get bonus points. And again, rub these out, write them down. Kids can add in their own ones. And it might be that you feel that one team needs to really work on their offloading, so you can give them extra bonus points for it. And I suppose as a coach, you've got the ability to tweak and change the powers as they go. And again, just round about that terminology that you're using, the language you're using, that kids are using every day in everyday life. They're pausing, they're on a mission, they're getting power ups, they're getting superpowers, and again back to the kind of cheating kind of element. I think some of the early kind of gamification ideas that was around about was just using language from a game, and Fortnite was the kind of game of choice at the time, using language for Fortnite and just calling the game that you play something from Fortnite, which I think when they dug, you kind of a lot more of the research and the information came out, it was a lot more than just what you call it, it's how you use it and what you're doing. And I think as a coach, a real challenge becomes you've got to notice what's going on. And obviously if 2 different teams are doing 2 different things, obviously if you've got co-coaches, if you're working in a group of coaches, you can focus on different things. But again, keep using those kind of skill cues to feed into this was good, that was what worked and what happened and what worked through there. That makes sense. Yeah, and I suppose just finally, one thing I saw kind of just as lockdown was happening, and I'm keen to experiment with and try with, and like I said to Dylan, that we're keen to do a session on field when all the restrictions are lifted and people are up and running again, and just play loads of these games and share some ideas. And this is one thing I saw. So it's basically three different pitches, side by side, and if you've got bigger numbers, if you've got 10, 12, you probably need sort of 20 to 30 players. The kind of aim is to win on all three pitches, be winning on all three pitches at the same time. But within the three pitches, there's three different games going. So we've got ruck touch, offload touch, offside, I should say offside. There's my higher English coming in, really handy. You've got offside touch going, and players can move between pitches. As a coach, all you're worrying about is kind of, I suppose, giving them the cues, giving the coaching. But kids have got to recognise, like we're numbers up here, we're doing really well on maybe the blue pitch. We've scored 3 tries, we're winning 3-0 weekend, but we're losing on the middle pitch or the red pitch. So we need the players in the red pitch are shouting and communicating and asking for help, and then how do they do that well? Are players in the blue pitch listening for that support and that instruction? Are they aware of what's going on? And again, changing different styles of game in this. So 1 minute they're playing ruck touch, and then they're playing offload touch, which happens in the game. We've series of rucks. We've made a line break. We're looking for offload, and so it's how do we adapt, how do we change? If we just keep doing the same thing over and over again, it's, again, defensively, it's predictable. It's easy. It becomes easy to defend. So we want defenders that can defend then defend an offload, and then in the offside touch, it's really multi-directional, and there's a real challenge and there's a physical challenge. So that's something I'm excited about experimenting with, trying out, seeing how it works, and having hopefully a bit of fun and kind of a different challenge to the players as they go. So
just jump in there, Colin. I think even with our context of the community, you could have an 18s team, a 16s team, and a 15s team. Mix them up and get them across those 3 different pitches, and all of a sudden you should have about 4 coaches, enough players. You sort of get in the 15s mixing with your 18s boys, but challenging these different areas. But I think a lot of kids, they love to compete, and all of a sudden you got a king court, and one of them is the top field, and everyone's trying to work their way up, or there's different ways to approach that. But I think once we come out of this, like you said, we'll get some academy groups together, we'll get all the coaches on here, and then we'll give this a go and see how they can actually react and see what it looks like in practice.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think your point there, I think there's something we I talked to it, and it's kind of slightly I've talked around about leadership and that, and I think on one of the earlier calls on the Thursday night, kind of looked at that. Kind of everyone, most traditionally they coach S1s, S2s, or whatever the age groups are, and they work in those age groups. And how often do they, as you say, flip it up and down the way and have the under 15 players supporting the under 14 and the under 13 and working on his leadership skills. If they're all the same age and work with the same players all the time, they'll be leaders, but are they really challenged as leaders? And definitely that where's the most powerful, some of the most powerful learnings that are that peer-to-peer. It's teaching somebody else. I think definitely when I think back to my rugby career, if Ando's on, he didn't pick me when he was in Scotland, so I kind of blame him. But Chris Patterson got 109 caps for Scotland, and so he was the guy who was ahead of me. Wasn't half bad. So
you only got picked because he was Aussie.
No, I'm also Chris is on the borders. But he lived closer to Edinburgh. So.
Oh, who was the Australian guy that got picked for 10?
Brendan Laney.
Was it Parks? Dan Parks?
Oh, Dan Parks as well. Yeah, no, we had loads of them. Dan Parks, he came in. Yeah, no, Dan was good. Laney was good. He got a bit of grief because his first game in Scotland was for Scotland, which was a bit of a talking point. But yeah, no, just in terms of kind of thinking my journey, going back to that, where kind of played, but my skills and my understanding of the game and kind of how I performed week in, week out got considerably better when I became a development officer, and I was kind of coaching and I suppose educating other people around about the game. So if you can think about that principle for kids, if our under 15s are having to help support our under 13s or under 14s, under 12s, they're going to have to think about the game slightly differently, and the terminology and the language, and instead of just sharing it amongst each other, and the ones that speak and the ones that don't. And so the quieter players within your 15s group will then be given that opportunity to kind of develop the leadership and communication skills as well. That's me for slides wise. Dylan, if there's questions in chat.
Yeah, good. Anyone just want to take himself off mute and throw a question away, and I'll just bring up one of the other screens.
Yeah, try and come out of this. How's that
Cool.
for you?
Hang on a sec, I'll just cross that off. Sweet. All right. We've got a couple of directors of junior coordinators and even directors of rugby on here. So, Brownie or Des, you want to hop in and maybe chat about some of the stuff around what you could use or implement pretty soon, or if you have been using it already and how it's worked? And should be off mute now. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I can jump in, guys. So at the club that I'm at, I'm director of coaching up there, and obviously with the restrictions easing off, so groups of 10 that you could train in, we've been doing a number of things, and hopefully gearing towards being able to use equipment is also something to look forward to hopefully next week. But we've obviously just being able to, all you can do is run and get physically fit as fast as you can. There's not too much games you can do from 1.5 meters away from your opponent. So we haven't done too much of that. And with sharing equipment not being allowed at the moment, we really haven't focused on that, but we are planning to, obviously moving into potentially a very short contact period before hopefully the season kicks off. We've got a bit of focus on that. So we're starting looking at what we can do as a single person training, and doing that in isolation so that you can do that. So we sent a few videos through to Dills last night with some of the things we're doing with our under 18s group at the moment, and some of the other coaches are starting to gear up in that sense as well. So I guess WA's been pretty good in keeping us as healthy as we can, and definitely trying to get the boys and the girls up to speed on game sense, which is a lot of gamification, and those 3 weeks we get when we can have contact is going to be a key thing, and obviously getting their bodies ready for contact. So I've put out a plan personally for my team, and hopefully to our other coaches, just to say do what you can to get them as fit as you can, while we're in sort of smaller groups of 10 and maybe 20 next week. And then once those restrictions rise, we've only got a very short time frame to get our gamification, our game plans, and all that sort of thing in place. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks, and I think a very interesting season as well leading up to that. You're right, Milk.
Dylan's muted himself.
Sorry, thanks, Des. Brownie, you had a few points.
Yeah, look, I like. You hear me? Okay.
Yep.
I like quite a lot of Colin's points here. I agree with the sort of gamification stuff in terms of you can play some modified games, and you vary the rules or the points around what you might want. For example, if you want them to concentrate off scoring off an inside ball, you might give 5 points for a normal try, but you might give 10 points for a try scored off an inside pass. So you just modify your game around the different things that you want, and change the rules. I like the idea that you let the boys decide, what they can get from it if they achieve a certain level. I think that's a good idea. But yeah, I just think the idea of you play some games, you might do some close drills, you put it into a game, you change the rules up, give them different points, make it fun, and let them go.
Awesome. I put out a question on the chat to everyone. Anyone can jump in here, but obviously the time that we're in, it's pretty challenging around what we can do from a rugby point of view, but social distancing at this stage, could be for the next 4 weeks at least. So if we're looking at different modified games, when we can actually start throwing a footy around, but we've got to have our distance, any ideas around what type of game we could play, but keeping to the distancing?
Is there a prize for this?
Dylan, that's one of the things we did out at, we're going to try out at Guildford. We've got some pool noodles, and we're going to play touch, but they have to use the pool noodle to touch the other player, so that keeps the social distancing apart and sort of makes it a bit of fun. I'm not sure how many pool noodles we'll have left as one piece by the end of training.
So do you plan to have one team attacking for, say, a 3-minute block, and then
one team attacking, and then so we might play what we call Wallabies touch, or some people call it Dean's touch, where you overload the attack and have less defenders, but just using the noodle to sort of keep them a little bit further away, and just make it a bit of fun, just something a bit different,
Yeah, I like that.
One of the things I'd thought, again, thinking along the same lines, Dylan, is the kind of, how do you, so it's a touch game, but obviously you can't get in touch, so there's some sort of physical kind of challenge or exercise that if I've got the ball and I'm running, and somebody in the other team does three burpees, for example, if you do 3 burpees and I'm the same player still in possession of the ball, it's a turnover and we lose it. So again, think about trying to get players to scan and visualize what's going on. So I'm on the ball, I'm maybe looking for space, but somebody's got to identify who's doing the burpees in the other team and counting them and communicating, making that noise, make the passes on 2, kind of maybe encourage them. He thinks he can get to the line, so whether it's burpees, press ups, star jumps, and I suppose within the defending team, it's that communication: who's doing the burpees, who's doing the star jumps, and that preparation. When it's a turnover, how quickly do they react? And I suppose that we really touch on that transition in the games. How often do we practice? We practice attack. Then we practice defence, and obviously a lot of the work we do in the academy is try to get the speed of transition. So again, maybe within that game, hopefully there'll be that transition and ready to react and realign. So that was one thing that I was thinking about.
Hey, Dills, we do we can do force back, so just to practice your kicking. If you got full access to a full field and the goalposts are up, we'll do force back, and it's usually the backs that'll do it. They'll split in half, but throw the forwards in there as well. And similar rules: if you kick it out on the full, anywhere on the field, then the opposition team gets the ball back from where the kick was taken, or in line where the kick was taken. If the opposition catches it on the full, then you can take a running 3 steps and advance upfield a kick. And obviously then if you don't want them to catch on the full, then you're going to be tactical, whether you're grubbering it or kicking the grass. Get points. You can punt it from 40 metres, and if you can punt it from 40 metres through the post, you get points. If you drop kick it, you get more points for that. If you drop kick it within the 22, you might get less points than drop kicking outside the 22. You can change it up, so every time someone scores, you can do a new round and say, hey, we're going to kick with our off foot. Or you might even change it up to make sure that making sure everyone gets a go, that you might get, if your props can drop kick a drop goal, then they probably will get fired from their job. No, you get extra points for the props to kick a goal. So yeah, I found that quite fun and pretty good on your kicking, and it gives everyone confidence to kick and feel good about it if you do it enough. Yeah, so that's another one. You don't, and you can introduce extra balls, so you may have 2-3 rugby balls going at the same time. So yeah, but I know we don't no kicking in the rugby game. We want to run it as much as we can, but it's definitely a skill that if you're not confident in it, if you're just out there to have fun, you're going to get kids to kick the ball, not concerned about anything else other than having some fun. So
yeah, I'm sure it must have been hard to convince the forwards to be a part of that game.
It is, yeah.
Now, just on that as well, just to add in, so some extra elements is you could add in like a passing limit, or how many passes before you can get a kickoff. So all of a sudden you start getting guys working off the ball, get in a position to actually pass the ball around, and then you get the kick as well. So you're not just getting the kick skill, but you can get passing there as well.
Yeah, 100%. So a couple of variations we've done, this is going back a few years too, is if you did catch it in the full and advanced, you could get 2 passes, but they had to be lateral passes. So you could potentially have 2 guys wide that maybe get a kick down the corner where there's no defenders, so you can use that if you want, as opposed to passing forward, just a lateral pass or backwards pass to get to a different part of the field to get a kick from there. So you can do all of those sort of things and change it up as you need.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Dean, you had a question, mate? I just pulled you in. Hang on. Just unmuting. There you go. Dean, you there? Hang on. You're off mute. There you go. I don't think you got your mic on. No, it's not working. If you want to just put your question through the chat line, mate, and I'll be able to ask the group or ask Colin for it.
Well, just while we're waiting for that, I did have one more slide, Dylan, but I'll just maybe just if you just want to email it out to everyone, just some of the kind of, I suppose, people that can follow and got some information around about the skill acquisition. Obviously, Rick Shuttleworth, who's done a lot of stuff with a massive amount of stuff with Eddie Jones, and Amy Price have touched on in terms of the kind of gamification, this kind of Magic Academy. Russell Earnshaw and Fletcher, who's always called Sean Fletcher, but his name's not Sean Fletcher, John Fletcher, who've done a lot of these game sort of things and doing a lot of research around about that and give some ideas. And I've got a clip to Eddie Jones was interviewed when he was in the England role, kind of game changers. I think if you just Google Eddie Jones game changers on YouTube, that comes up with an interview that he was doing, and it's actually, there's activity going on. He's having a conversation and how they use it, and again just different ideas of how they access it. So I can either stick it in the chat, or Dylan, if you want to send it out.
Yeah, cool. Once I send out the email tomorrow, I can send it out with your presentation.
Yeah.
Perfect. Two, you want to jump in, mate? You had a question?
Hey, boys.
Yo.
Oh, it wasn't more of a question. I had the boys maybe just the other week. Just one of the games I saw they were asking about what games can play. So I had the boys, I got heaps of rope. So I had the boys tuck rope into their shorts, no contact. It's like bull rush. To get the man out, you stand on the rope. So you've got to run, keeping distance, and then if you want to get somebody out, you sort of just stand on their rope. You don't touch the rope, you stand on their rope, you leave it, they're out, they've got to turn around, pick their own rope up, sort of stuff like that. It keeps them active, keeps them going.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. So with the, I guess with the rope there as well, you'd have to be sort of 3 meters long or something, because it hangs out the back of the shorts and then onto the ground.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
So
I like that.
Yeah, I can get industrial rope from everywhere, bro. So
I won't.
But
Show your
yeah,
employers this one.
You don't work for a rope sales company, do you? We're going to get promotion.
Oh, there was fell off the back of a truck, they say. Just found it on the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all those, it's all that sort of trying to keep the social distancing part safe, and yeah, just being trying to keep the boys active, and and how to be together but apart, if you know what I'm saying. Because the first thing the boys want to do is come in and give each other a high five and everything. We can't have that at the moment. But I modify games anyway. I'd like to think that most of my training is on gamification. And so
good. That's what we like to hear too.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear. Dean, we have one more crack. I don't know what's going on with your speaker and that, but you're off mute now. If you yell out, if not, we'll probably wind it up. No, it doesn't seem to work. All good. Alrighty. Cole, do you want to finish off at all? Or you're pretty happy?
No. As I said, like I've made loads of mistakes over the years. Tried lots of different things, and the game keeps changing. The information that's available to us keeps changing, and keen to just get out and about. Looking forward to getting out and about and meeting more people in real life, and not just virtually. In my short-term time here, and hopefully we'll get some ideas and fire any ideas across, any challenges, any questions, and kind of more than welcome to get out and about and kind of get involved and see where I can help out with different sessions and ideas, and feel free to pick my brains, and I'll definitely be picking some of your brains about some local knowledge and getting settled into life in Australia. But, well, good.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Cole. Obviously, it's great to have one of our presenters actually be in the same state as us. So most of everyone, all the coaches that were on tonight, were all from Perth, or based in Perth at the moment. So it'd be perfect for when we actually come out of this, we can run our on-field prac. As every other week, these are recorded, so we'll promote it and get anyone else that wants to come down for the prac version. They can come and have a look at the presentation, and it'll be really good to see some of those gamification games and how it works, and talk about some of the theory and put onto the actual field and see how the players react.
I think Des won bingo because he's the first one to mention it.
Organise a coffee for you, Des.
Oh, sure, bro.
Easy, no problem.
But yeah, just like that. So what we'll do, I'll send the email out. But Colin, what I'll do, I'll actually CC you on the email, so not BCC. Just so then everyone, you've got a direct link to Cole about any of the stuff tonight. But also, like we said, he's now the state 16s head coach as well, and the coaches on here are around that youth pathway age, and all involved around that. So we'd love to see what Colin's looking for from a pathway player and a state rep. And you've got a direct link there to pick his brain about that and help your players get to that level.
No worries.
Cool.
Anytime.
That's another session done, guys. So thanks for hopping on again, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Cole. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, gents.
Cheers, Cole. Cheers,
ladies.